I'm writing this because pretending it didn't happen almost destroyed me. For over a year, I convinced myself it was stress, lack of sleep, too much time alone. Every explanation felt safer than the alternative. But there's a limit to how long you can lie to yourself before the truth starts leaking through the cracks. I live in a town that doesn't even show up on most maps. It's the kind of place where nothing ever happens, and when it does, people lower their voices and change the subject. I moved there after my divorce, not to start over, but to disappear. No neighbors dropping by, no friends asking questions. Just silence. At first, the silence was comforting. Then it started watching me. My job allowed me to work remotely, which meant I barely left the house. Days blended together. Nights became my favorite time. No emails, no phone calls. Just me, the glow of my monitor, and the ticking clock in the kitchen. That clock would later become my enemy. The first sign something was wrong happened at exactly 2:17 a.m. I know the time because I checked it twice, confused by what I was hearing. Someone was walking inside my house, not outside, not in the yard. Inside, bare feet, slow, deliberate. Each step carried weight, like the person wasn't trying to hide. The sound came from the hallway leading to my bedroom. I sat frozen at my desk, listening. The footsteps stopped right outside my door. I waited for the handle to turn. It didn't. After about 30 seconds, the footsteps slowly walked away, fading into the living room. I grabbed the heaviest thing within reach, a metal paperweight, and opened the door. The hallway was empty. Every door was locked, every window sealed, nothing disturbed, no signs of forced entry. I didn't call the police. I told myself it was exhaustion, audio hallucinations, stress. That was my first mistake. Over the next few weeks, it happened again. Always after 2 a.m. Always the same footsteps. Always stopping outside my bedroom door. Never entering. Never speaking. Just listening. I started staying awake on purpose, afraid of what might happen if I slept. My body deteriorated fast, shaking hands, blurred vision. My thoughts became fragmented, like I was constantly half-dreaming. One night, I decided to confront it. I left my bedroom door open and sat on the edge of my bed, staring into the hallway, waiting. At 2:17 a.m., the footsteps began. This time, they didn't stop. They walked past my door, toward the kitchen. I stood up and followed. Every instinct screamed at me to stop, but curiosity overpowered fear. The footsteps led me into the living room. That's when I noticed something impossible. The sound wasn't coming from the floor. It was coming from the ceiling, right above me. Someone was walking inside my attic. I backed away slowly, my heart hammering. The footsteps mirrored mine, stopping when I stopped. I whispered, "Hello?" Silence. Then a soft sound. Fingernails dragging across wood, directly above my head. I ran back to my bedroom and locked the door. The next morning, I climbed into the attic with a flashlight. No footprints, no damage, nothing missing. But I found something else. Handprints, press marks in the insulation, as if someone had been crawling back and forth for hours. They were fresh, and they were human. That's when I realized something far worse. Whatever was in my house, it knew my schedule. It knew when I slept, and it knew when I was awake. After finding the handprints in the attic, I stopped pretending. Whatever had been happening wasn't stress. It wasn't exhaustion, and it definitely wasn't in my head. I didn't call the police. I know that sounds stupid, but try explaining to a dispatcher that someone is crawling around your attic at night, leaving no entry points and no physical evidence except handprints and insulation. I already knew how that conversation would end. Instead, I bought cameras. Cheap ones. Motion activated. I placed one in the hallway, one in the living room, and one pointing directly at the attic access hatch in the ceiling. That first night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed, laptop open, watching the live feeds. 2:16 a.m. Nothing. 2:17 a.m. The hallway camera glitched, just for a second, static, then normal again. And then I saw it. The attic hatch handle moved. Not opened. Just nudged, as if something on the other side was testing it. I held my breath. The handle twisted slowly, painfully slowly, until it stopped. The hatch didn't open, but something spoke, not out loud, inside my head. "You're awake tonight." I slammed the laptop shut and backed against the wall. I didn't hear footsteps this time. I heard crawling, directly above my bedroom, the sound of skin dragging against wood. I grabbed my phone and started recording, whispering everything I could hear, narrating like that would somehow keep me sane. Then the attic hatch opened. Just an inch. Cold air spilled out, carrying a smell I can only describe as old breath, stale, damp, wrong. A face appeared in the gap. Not fully, just an eye. Wide. Unblinking. Too alert. It stared directly at me. I screamed. The hatch slammed shut instantly, hard enough to shake dust from the ceiling. The cameras shut off at the same time. Every single one. I left the house that night. I didn't pack. I didn't lock the door. I drove until sunrise and checked into the first motel I saw. I slept for 12 straight hours. When I woke up, I had missed calls from my neighbor, from the police, and one voicemail that chilled me more than anything else. It was my own voice, recorded at 2:17 a.m. saying, "Stop pretending I don't exist." The police told me my house had been found unlocked, attic hatch open. No signs of forced entry. No signs of anyone else. But the attic insulation had been completely flattened, like someone had been lying there, waiting. I never went back. I sold the house at a loss and moved states. Here's why I'm writing this now. Because no matter where I live, no matter how careful I am, I still wake up some nights at 2:17 a.m., and from somewhere above me, I hear breathing. I used to think people exaggerated when they talked about bad houses. You know the type? Places that just feel wrong. I never believed in that. A house is wood, concrete, wiring, pipes. Nothing more. Or at least, that's what I told myself before I moved into that place. It was a small rental on the edge of town, cheap enough to make me suspicious, but clean enough to ignore the feeling. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, old, but not falling apart. The landlord didn't ask many questions, which I appreciated at the time. The first few weeks were normal. Quiet. Almost too quiet. I work night shifts remotely, so I'm awake when most people are asleep. Around midnight, the neighborhood felt abandoned. No cars, no voices, just wind and the occasional dog barking far away. That's why the first noise stood out so clearly. It was knocking, not loud, not aggressive. 3 soft knocks on the front door. I checked the clock. 1:43 a.m. I remember laughing to myself. No one knocks at that hour unless something is wrong. I grabbed my phone, turned on the porch light, and walked to the door. "Hello?" I called out. No answer. I looked through the peephole. No one there. When I opened the door, the porch was empty. No footsteps, no car sounds, nothing. I shrugged it off. Probably kids. Or my imagination. The second night, it happened again. Same time. 1:43 a.m., same 3 knocks. This time I didn't open the door. I stood perfectly still in the hallway, listening. That's when I heard something I still can't explain. A voice. From inside the house. It sounded exactly like mine. "Hello?" it said. My stomach dropped. I hadn't spoken. My lips were pressed together. I hadn't moved. Yet the voice came from the living room. I slowly backed into my bedroom and locked the door. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the bed holding my phone, replaying the sound over and over in my head. By morning, logic returned. Stress, exhaustion, auditory hallucination. That's what I told myself. But the knocking didn't stop. Every night. Same time. Same pattern. And every time I stayed silent, the voice inside the house answered instead. Sometimes it said, "Hello." Sometimes it said my name. On the fifth night, curiosity beat fear. I stood in the hallway and spoke first. "Who's there?" Immediately the voice replied, from behind me. "I'm here." I turned around. No one. That's when I noticed something new. The bedroom door behind me was open. I always locked it. I called the police the next morning. They checked the doors, the windows, the crawl space. Everything was secure. No signs of forced entry. One of them suggested sleep deprivation. The other suggested maybe a neighbor was messing with me. Neither explanation made sense. That night, I set up my phone to record audio. I wanted proof, for myself more than anyone else. At 1:43 a.m., the knocking started. 3 soft knocks, then silence, then the voice. Clear as day. "Open the door." My blood ran cold. I hadn't heard it say that before. I stayed still, barely breathing. The voice continued, slowly. "You already let me in." The recording caught everything. But when I played it back in the morning, there was nothing. No knocking, no voice, just static. That's when I noticed something else. My bedroom closet door was open. Inside, carved lightly into the wooden frame, were words I hadn't seen before. "Why do you pretend I'm not here?" I moved out that same day. Here's the part that still keeps me awake. 2 weeks later, after I'd settled into a new apartment across town, my phone rang at 1:43 a.m. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. And from the other end, in my own voice, I heard, "Hello?" When I signed the lease, the building manager handed me a printed floor plan. "Your unit is here," he said, tapping the paper with a pen. "Second floor, Unit 214. I glanced at it briefly. Rectangular layout. Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living area. Nothing unusual. What I didn't notice at the time was that the floor plan showed 3 storage closets. My apartment had 4. The building was old. Late 1960s, maybe early 70s. The kind of place that smelled faintly of dust no matter how much you cleaned. I lived alone, worked from home, and kept to myself. Perfect arrangement. The first month passed without incident. Then one night, around 2 a.m., I heard a door close. Not slam, not creak, just the soft, final sound of a door being shut. Inside my apartment. I sat up in bed listening. The air felt heavier, thick almost. I got up, turned on the lights, and checked every room. Nothing was open. Every door exactly where it should be. That should have been the end of it. But the next night, it happened again. Same time. Same sound. This time I stood in the hallway and waited. The sound came from the far end of the apartment, near the 4th closet. The one in the narrow corridor between the bathroom and the kitchen. That closet had always bothered me. It was deeper than it should have been. I opened it. Empty. Just darkness and the smell of old wood. I chalked it up to pipes. Old buildings make noises. But the noises changed. Soft breathing. Only when the lights were off. The third night I woke up to whispering. Not words. Just breathy, broken sounds. Like someone trying to speak without lungs. It was coming from inside the closet. I didn't open it. I stood there, frozen, until the whispering stopped. The next morning, I compared the apartment to the floor plan again. That's when I noticed something impossible. The fourth closet wasn't on it. According to the official layout, that space didn't exist. I contacted the building manager. He frowned, looked at the plan, and said, "There's no closet there." I told him to come see it himself. He refused, said he was too busy. That night, the closet door was open when I got home, and something inside it was breathing. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch, lights on, staring down the hallway. At exactly 2:06 a.m., the breathing changed. It became rhythmic, like someone practicing. Then the whispering started again, clearer this time. "I can fit now." My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my phone. I called a friend, asked if I could stay with him. He said yes. But by the time I grabbed my bag and stepped into the hallway, the closet door slammed shut. The sound echoed through the apartment. I ran out. I didn't go back for 3 days. When I returned with my friend to collect my things, the closet was gone. Not locked. Gone. The wall was seamless, like it had never been there. My friend laughed nervously, said I must have imagined it. Then he stopped. "There's something wrong with this wall," he said. "We pressed on it. It flexed, like skin." That night, the building was evacuated. An elderly tenant on the first floor had reported hearing voices coming from her walls. When maintenance finally broke through, they found a narrow hidden room running vertically through the building. No windows, no vents, no exits. Inside were scratch marks and a list of apartment numbers carved into the wood. Mine was at the bottom, crossed out.